All right, everyone. Before we begin, I just wanted to thank you guys again for attending our meeting. We appreciate the time you have devoted outside of your guys' busy schedules to come in and listen to what we have to say. I'm Simran Tumber, a current junior at Mona Shores and president of the Youth Advisory Council for this school year. Before we begin talking about the survey itself and our discoveries through the survey, I wish to talk a little bit about what YAC is in itself. The Youth Advisory Council is made up of 20 plus grant makers representing 16 different schools across Muskegon County. We meet monthly to allot over 60,000 annually to service organizations and projects within our community involving the youth. Over the past 2 years, our main focus when allocating these grants has been mental health among students, and with the distribution of our youth empowerment survey amongst multiple schools, we continue to see what issues are arising or continuing to impact students in our society today. I will now pass it on to Lily Seaver, who will talk a little bit more about the survey and what conclusions we can make with our results.
Okay, so as Simran said, my name is Lily Seaver, and I am nearing the end of my junior year at Montague High School. And I'm going to be talking more specifically about the YES survey. The YES survey is created by the YAC and administered every 3 years to high school students in Muskegon County. YES stands for Youth Empowerment Survey. Their survey was previously called the Youth Needs Assessment, but the name was changed to make the survey more welcoming to students. It is a voluntary survey, so at times we do get a larger number of responses from a few schools and a smaller number of responses from others. YAC students are encouraged to share this survey with their classmates and school counselor in order to get it administered. As a student taking the survey, you are at first asked demographic questions such as what school do you attend and how old are you? Then the survey moves into deeper questions such as what issues do you and your peers face and how do you receive information about what is happening in your community? The user is allowed to checkmark boxes next to the answers that they think fit them and their peers the best. There are also spaces to add their own answers or additional comments. As a student, you are helping YAC help you because we use the information from the survey to know what the Muskegon youth needs. The result of this survey will now be used for the next 3 years to determine the goals of YAC. We always have a goal of funding grants that help us meet the needs of the youth of Muskegon County today. This survey helps us determine what the youth is struggling with. The questions help us to know what issues we should target when we fund programs and how to inform other kids of our mission and the ways that they can get involved. This survey becomes very important to our grant making process. As we review applications, we rate them according to effectiveness, impact, amount, and how well it meets our goals determined by the YES survey. In previous years, the YAC has determined mental health as the need that Muskegon community youth struggles with the most. We will determine the goal for this year through this presentation. And now we are going to move into talking more specifically about this year's YES survey results.
Hi guys, my name is Jessica Anigenberg and I go to Western Michigan Christian where I'm a 10th grader. I've been on YAC for about 2 years and I'm so excited to be presenting here today. So our first demographic was what school do you attend? And as you can see, there's a lot of variety, which was very nice to see. It mostly applied to larger schools, but there are quite a few smaller schools that had a lot of students participating, so that was very beneficial to see for us. The next demographic was age, and this was also very beneficial for us as a YAC to see because a lot of younger students and freshmen, as in freshmen and sophomores, they participated, and the younger generation that are in the freshman and sophomore classes will have more opportunities to experience grants that we as a YAC provide, so that was also very beneficial to see. The next demographic was what is your gender? As you can see, it was a little bit even. Typically in surveys like this, you will see more female participants. We got quite a few non-binary people, so that was pretty good to see. But yeah, it was very nice to see the level of participants that we saw that answered these questions. All right, the next one was what is your race or cultural identity? And it lined up very well with the 2020 Muskegon census with the racial breakdown of Muskegon County as evident in the lower right hand of your screen. So those lined up quite well with the racial breakdown. So that was a very, very good thing to see, that we got people from all over participating in this survey. And yeah, this is just background information. This is what we really wanted to get down to, what issues that us and our peers face. When finding the biggest issues, we used the top 2 most severe rating categories, which was an issue that affects a lot of people and an issue that affects everyone. And it's, as you can see, it was pretty even for most of them. And if you go to the next slide, you can see how severe mental health was. And that is very natural to see, especially because it was the biggest issue 3 years ago in the last YES survey, and it still is the most severe one. It almost seems like the entire rating categories are shifted over one, which was interesting to see. I know it's a little bit hard to see all of the specific ones, but the infographics on the side were very helpful to visualize everything. But if you go to the next slide, we used the top 2 weighted categories, and those were used to decide the top 3 categories that we as a YAC will write grants to, and those were mental health, including depression and anxiety, substance use, including alcohol and drugs, and race discrimination. If you all go to the next slide, as a result of the pandemic, what have become issues that you and your peers face? We got a lot of varied responses. As you know, this is not a traditional year with the pandemic going on, and we felt that it might have a little bit influence over the results. So the most common ones were loss of motivation, trouble keeping up with schoolwork, and depression and anxiety. So yes, and now we move on to Amanda's section, and she's going to talk about mental health.
Awesome. As Jess had said, my name's Amanda. I'm just finishing up my junior year at Montague High School, and today I'll be presenting on mental health. So mental health, as we know, is an umbrella of specified terms, including anxiety disorders, depression, eating disorders, personality disorders, post-traumatic stress disorders, and psychotic disorders. Based on the results from the YES survey, it was determined that mental health was the major issue among high school students in Muskegon County. This is really quite concerning because considering the fact that most of these students are ranged from 13 to 19 years of age, and they're already dealing with mental health issues, is something that we need to focus on. We go to the next slides. One of the most important things to do upon analyzing a survey is asking questions about the results. So the first question is, why are so many students facing mental health issues? In today's society, the world can be very demanding and hectic. Teenagers are repetitively attending school, attending sports, attending work, completing their schoolwork, so forth and so on. Asking a teen to do all of this plus more can be really overwhelming and stressful. Since the majority of students attending high school fit into the category listed above, it can be easily understood that students are facing mental health issues. The second question is, how is having a negative mental health affecting the day-to-day tasks these students face? The students who have a negative mental health experience negative results. Their school life, their friend group, their home life are affected. And then in addition, maintaining overall health, getting enough sleep, remaining positive, and keeping good grades are also affected. The third question, are there any resources for students to reach out if they are facing mental health issues? So mental health has been one of YAC's main focus this year, and this upcoming year, we are continuing to stick with that. When we review grants in the fall and spring, we are looking for grants that focus on requests for mental health of young children and teenagers. Grant requests for programs such as Joyful Strides for hippotherapy, Kojic Community Center for mental health groups, local police departments for Ride with Pride for encouraging good behavior as an incentive program, and Muskegon Heights Optimist Club for using art, yoga, and music as an outlet for mental health issues and negativity. These grants have had a huge impact on our community, and we wish to continue to reach out to other youths through grants such as the ones listed above. With that, I'll now pass it over to Trevor for the next topic.
As Amanda said, my name is Trevor. I am currently a junior at Muskegon Catholic Central. And today I'll be talking about substance abuse, which is one of the things that was scored highly on our survey this year. Off the top of my head, I cannot think of a grant that we've made that deals with something like this. So this is a relatively new issue that is affecting our teens. First thing I want to know is that 79% of our responders said that substance abuse is somewhat of a problem, if not a very big problem, which it is. And this ranges from the use of alcohol, drugs, marijuana, opioids. There's a whole spectrum that falls into this category. The MyFi survey, which is something that my dad showed me, who is a public attorney. He showed me the survey, which deals with the whole county in terms of use of drugs and alcohol. And looking through the survey, I found that 55% of students who answered the survey said that they can easily get a hold of alcohol. So whatever means that is, there are a lot of teens in our county that have access to alcoholic beverages, which is something that needs to be, that number needs to go down. And that is something we can do by funding grants that deal with this type of situation. And another thing I noticed on the survey was that the average age of child's or teen's first time getting drunk was 14 years old, which is really, really shocking. It's not 21. It's not the legal age to drink. It's 14 years old. So 14-year-olds are getting their hands on stuff like this, and that has to stop. And continuing on with the drug part, 46% of responders to the MyFi survey said that they could get a hold of marijuana, and the average age of their first use was 13 years old. So again, this is something I think relatively new that we've had to cover in YAC. So it'll be interesting to see how we're able to fund grants, who puts grants forward to try and put an end to substance abuse. But on that note, I will hand it over to Mackenzie, who will talk about race discrimination.
Thank you, Trevor. My name is Mackenzie, and I'm finishing up my junior year at Orchard View High School. I will be presenting on race discrimination, and I will be speaking about some of my personal experiences. But my personal experiences, I'm someone who actively benefits from colorism, and colorism is prejudice discrimination against individuals with a darker skin tone. So all of my experiences I have been benefiting from colorism my whole life, whether I recognize it or not. So this is not the same for all Black people, and Black people are not a monolith. So when I speak on my things, I am benefiting from things that we're trying to dismantle. So race discrimination is defined as any discrimination against any individual on the basis of skin color or racial or ethnic origin. Individuals can discriminate by refusing to do business with, socialize with, or share resources with people of a certain group. So a lot of things were brought to light this past year with the Black Lives Matter protests. And when you look at the effects of seeing so many really hard things on the media, seeing Black people die at the hands of police, seeing all this violence at all these different protests, it's really hard, and it takes a really big toll on your mental health. And I know that's a really important one. So on our needs survey, mental health scored extremely high. So when we look at mental health and we compare the effects that racism has on mental health, it really does take a toll on students of color. So my earliest experience with racism, and it sounds kind of silly, but I was 6 years old and I was doing a dance class. And at the end of our dance class, we all held hands and we go up and we go down. And that was it. And that was the end. And the girl next to me, she told me she didn't want to hold my hand because I was dirty. And I didn't understand at the time. At the time I was 6, I was like, I'm not dirty. Like, what are you talking about? But now when I look back on it and I was thinking of examples of microaggressions, that was a really big microaggression that I went through and I didn't even notice it. And a lot of microaggressions go unnoticed because we don't know what they are. So a microaggression is a statement, an action, or an incident regarded as an instance of indirect, subtle, or unintentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group, such as a racial or an ethnic minority. So that was one of mine that I thought about. And I also thought about how sometimes students of color are often gaslit and into believing that what happened or racism that they experienced didn't actually happen. So gaslighting, let me get the definition, is to manipulate someone by psychological means into questioning their own sanity. So when you think about it, is if I punch you in the face and I look at you dead in the face and you're like, you just punched me in the face, there's no bruise. I didn't do that. That bruise didn't come from me. I didn't punch you in the face. I didn't do that. And then you start to question, did I actually get punched in the face? Did that actually happen to me or did I make it up? So with students of color, and especially for those who are in predominantly white schools, they go through this process where, am I actually experiencing racism or is this actually happening? And the line gets blurred back and forth. And it gets really tough for students of color. So you can go to the next slide and you can actually click. This one was about the protests and how it's really tough seeing bad things happen to people who are supporting you on a TV screen the whole time. It was really hard in June, and I went through a really big depressive phase, June all the way to the end of December, because it felt like it was me against the world. It was Black people and their allies against the world. And that was really hard. And going out or going into a place and wondering how people are going to see me or what people are going to think about me just because I'm Black. They're going to think, and this is another example of a microaggression, but when I step into an elevator and a white person, or if I'm waiting for an elevator with a white woman next to me and she's like, she doesn't get on because I'm getting on and I'm seen as a threat to her or as a criminal, or when white people clutch their purses a little tighter, or when a white man holds his wallet a little tighter when I walk past because they think that I'm a threat. That stuff is really disheartening and it's hard to see and it's hard to go through because I'm not like that at all. I went to a store, me and my friend were thrift shopping, we were having so much fun, and I noticed that a store employee was following us. So we were like, okay, let's go over to the bras and let's go hang out over there. Just stand over there, start looking through bras and see if he follows us. And he followed us. And it was just really tough because we were just there to have a good time. But he thought that I was stealing. He was watching us move stuff around. And it was a really awkward experience. But I was glad that I didn't have to go through it alone. But I hope that no one else has to go through a situation like that. And that hopefully kids in the future don't have to experience things like that. So another thing that's not talked about at all is redlining, and redlining is to refuse a loan or insurance to someone because they live in an area deemed to be a poor area or an area that's one of financial risk. And I have the definition over here. So it's an illegal discriminatory practice in which a mortgage lender denies loans or an insurance provider restricts services to certain areas of a community because of the racial characteristics of the applicant's neighborhood. And this goes all the way back to the inability for Black people to build generational wealth, because you can't build wealth if you don't have a house. You're continuing to rent, you're continuing to give your money somewhere else. So you don't have the things you need to be able to give your family something that they can live off of in the future. So when it comes to redlining, a big example of it in Muskegon County, if you take Mona Shores and if you take Muskegon Heights, if you drive down the road at 25 miles per hour in Muskegon Heights, your car will go up and down. There's no money there. The potholes never get filled. there's trash everywhere. There are all these issues, and it's not because of the people there. It's not necessarily a people issue. It's an issue. It's a lack of funding. And if you go to Mona Shores and if you go to that area over there, you can drive down the road. Honestly, you can go like 55 and you will not feel like half of the bumps that you felt when you were going through Muskegon Heights. And also when you look at things like sports programs and you look at the areas, they're cut off from resources. So it's a lack of access to mental health programs. It's really hard to find a good counselor or a reliable counselor in Muskegon Heights. But if you go to Mona Shores or an area like Mona Shores, you can find things, you can find the resources that you're looking for. So it cuts off access. You find food deserts there where there are a lack of grocery stores, and you find a whole bunch of corner stores, but you can't go anywhere to get any fresh fruit. You can't get any fresh meat. You have to eat processed foods, and it's really bad for you. And it goes on into these list of effects. But moving on, talking about there's racism in the medical field, there's racism in the way we're housed, there's racism in every single thing we do. So these are just some things I found from some websites, and this was a study done, and it said that half of the white medical trainees believe myths such as Black people have thicker skins or less sensitive nerve endings than white people, and those false notions and hidden biases fuel inadequate treatment of minorities' pains. And Black women die at an insanely disproportionate rate during childbirth. Black mothers are often not listened to when they report signs of possible complications during pregnancy and birth, and not only are their concerns dismissed, but traumatic birthing experiences are so common that 1/4, 25% of Black women report disrespect and abuse from medical professionals in the hospital. And race and ethnicity remain significant predictors of the quality of healthcare received, and the failure to address racism will continue to undermine health equity for all children, adolescents, emerging adults, and their families. Everybody wants to be able to go to a doctor that listens to them, that hears them, that sees their problems, and that believes them about their problems. And we all want our families to have good experiences when they go to the doctors to get help. So a lot of the times when we hear these things, it can be really discouraging and it can be hard and it can send you into a depression, and you can be like, well, what the heck do I do now? You're telling me all these things and I can't my hands are tied. I'm not responsible for all these things that happened in the past, but I do believe that every single person is responsible to help push us forward. Every single person has a duty to help move us in the right direction. So we need to listen to voices from marginalized communities. When people of color tell you that they're struggling through racism, believe them and listen to them and help them find a way, help them tackle this problem, because at the end of this, we're in it together. We need to support Black businesses, and we need to support mental health businesses and mental health practices that go into marginalized communities and help out, and that will also listen to voices of color when they're speaking out about their issues. And we need to work together in order to push for a better future. It's not going to be an easy fix, and it's not going to be something that happens quickly, but any little piece of work is going to push us forward in the right direction. And hopefully everybody pushing forward, we can make a difference so that our kids can have a better tomorrow. So with that, I'm finished, and I'm going to pass it off to Gabby for a Q&A.
Alrighty, great job, everyone. So we're kind of wrapping it up a little with a little Q&A. But before that, my name is Gabby Gaston. I go to North Muskegon High School, and I'm wrapping up my junior year, and I'm currently the vice chair of YAC. So let's get started.
So those of you in attendance, if you have questions for the YAC about their new priorities, go ahead and put them in the Q&A in your Zoom, and we'll be able to see those and start going through them and answer your questions.
Yeah, and how it'll work is I'll direct it to whoever gave us the information on this certain topic, or if it's just a broad general YAC question, that'll go to either Simran or Lily. All right. First question, we've got, what is the average gift size that Yak distributes? Simran, I think that's a good question for you.
Sorry, could you repeat that question? I didn't see it come into the chat.
Yeah, you're good. It's coming through the Q&A on at the bottom. The first one is, what is the average gift size that Yak distributes?
So the way I interpreted this question, I believe the amount we allocate to a specific grantee that's asking for a grant, it typically depends on the project. Like, for example, we do our teacher mini grants every year and we allocate around $250. Correct me if I'm wrong, Colleen. For each.
Been increased recently to $500 starting this fall.
Right. So it just depends on what you're applying a grant for, I believe, and what time you apply the grant for. Yeah.
For example, William, I believe our last round of grants ranged from about $2,000 to about $9,000 or $10,000. So it is a pretty wide gamut, but I wouldn't say that we have an average easily available. But yeah, I would say, last year was between 2 and 10.
All right. Next question in the Q&A is, when is the next opportunity to apply for a grant? So we have fall grant process coming up. I'm not sure when applications open for that. So
We'll be sending out a date fairly soon, but yeah, our next grant round is in the fall. So everyone who's here today, just keep your eye on your inbox. You should be seeing an invite to apply sometime over the next few months.
alrighty, next question. Does Yak provide funding for a general operation of the nonprofit? I think that was a good one for Colleen.
That might be a good question for Jocelyn. I'm personally not familiar if we've ever provided operation funding, but if Jocelyn is here and she can chime in, that would be great.
Hi, no, we normally do not, this particular committee do not offer general operating support grants. We are looking for grant opportunities that are specific to the three focus areas that were just addressed in this webinar.
Alrighty, perfect. So this is a really good question here. Could you talk about more about the parameters of Yak grants? Are they mainly for educators or students or the broader community? So I can answer part of this one. So we do have a lot of teachers apply for grants, but there is a specific application process for them that we host as well. But it's for any organization that really fits what this survey gave, like the results of this survey, which is why we do it. So any organization that is looking to benefit youth in our community is open to apply to grants. All right. And yes, this information will be available beyond this discussion. I think we're recording. I'm not sure if it's going to be in a link or Colleen.
Yeah, so the actual presentation that you saw will be available on our website and within a couple of days here. So you just go to the youth section of our website, muskegonfoundation.org, and you will find those results available there. As far as this presentation, it is being recorded. And so we do plan to send it out to a list of nonprofits. If you are here with us today, you are on that list that will be receiving the link to watch this video. For anyone who couldn't be here or would like to forward this information to other groups, you should have that link emailed to you as soon as the recording is available.
All right, perfect. And then this question in the chat was, did anything about the survey results surprise any of you? For me, to answer it personally, not necessarily. It wasn't very surprising, especially because mental health was such a big issue the last time we did the results. The only surprising part, I'd say, would be the substance abuse part of it and how prevalent that is now, which either it may or may not be in correlation with COVID. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I feel like the same way that you do, Gabby, that like since mental health was like a big thing in the past years and it's a big thing again, it's not like a huge surprise. But I don't know, I guess I wasn't expecting substance use to be a big thing either.
I agree with both of you. The only thing I was surprised about was the substance abuse. However, like talking with friends, I kind of got the idea that we were going through similar thing, especially with the pandemic and all of these exams that are thrown on us, like mental health and like a loss of motivation is really taking a toll on us. So nothing too surprising except for the substance abuse.
Yeah. All right. Here's another question. Has the yak dreamt about what kinds of actions or initiatives might meet some of the needs that are outlined in the survey? Simran, I think that's a good question for you.
So I think what we were trying to do here is looking at what the needs were through the survey in order to see what grants we can receive in the fall, just to allocate money properly to the organizations that will help the needs that were outlined in this presentation today, such as substance use, race discrimination, and mental health. So with the survey, we now know what areas we can pinpoint and give grants to in order to help with these issues in Muskegon.
Agreed. And Mackenzie said in the chat, I was surprised by the amount of responses we received. Me too. I don't know if I'm wrong in saying this, but wasn't it the most amount that we've ever gotten before in past surveys?
It wasn't the most that we've gotten before, but it was more than our most recent survey that we did in 2018. So it was nice to see a few more people participate.
Okay, perfect. We're on an upward slope.
There was a question from Rachel Cole. I'm not sure if you saw that one, Gabby.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I'm wondering if you guys are seeing a need for more education on teen dating violence currently. I think there were questions regarding that in our survey.
I'm happy to pull
it
up
wasn't
the
one of
chart
the
real
top
quick if you wanted to see
three, but I think it did kind of. I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, let me pull up, Rachel, I'm gonna pull up our results so that you can kind of see what we had asked. So it was mentioned in dating stress, romantic relationships, which is third from the top here. And so you can kind of see where those numbers fell. Definitely some response there, just not as severe as some other categories. And then we also included things like teen pregnancy and childcare, which you can see the results down here at the bottom.
Alrighty, so it looks like there's no more questions rolling in. Any last minute takers can drop them in the chat or the Q&A. But if not, we can start wrapping it up with Simran.
All right, so I don't think I see any more chats or Q&As. So we'll get this wrapped up today because I know all of you have places to be, things to do. Josh says, thank you for all of your work on this and great presentation. Thank you. We all put great efforts into it. So thank you all once again for joining us today. It means a lot to us, especially for devoting our times into this and trying to represent our peers in Muskegon and bring awareness to the issues that are plaguing Muskegon just for the next couple of years. Stay tuned for more information on our fall grant rounds this year, and our advisors' emails are right there if you would like to contact them further for any more further inquiries. Thank you guys so much.